Sometimes, sports stories have a way of coming back just when we think they're done. Atlanta fans, NFL followers, buckle in, because today, we're diving into a rumor that just won't die. Trey Hendrickson, last season's NFL sack leader, and one of the most dominant forces on the edge, is once again at the center of swirling trade speculation. Just a few months ago, most considered his future settled. Hendrickson himself made it clear he wanted to remain with the Bengals, and the Atlanta Falcons had seemingly set their pass rush plans in motion by doubling down with 2 first-round edge picks in the draft. And yet, as contract drama unfolds behind the scenes in Cincinnati, the door has been nudged open for another team to try and swoop in. So, what's really going on with Hendrickson? How have the Falcons gotten tangled in these rumors? And what would his arrival mean for Atlanta's aspirations and identity? Today we break it all down with fresh details, passionate opinion, and all the context you need to make sense of one of this offseason's juiciest headlines. Seeds of discontent, Hendrickson's contract, saga. Let's rewind to set the stage. The story's roots trace back to late winter, as rumors leaked that Trey Hendrickson requested a trade from the Bengals. Why? With just a year left on his contract, Hendrickson was facing a $16 million payday. Good money by most standards. But in a world where Myles Garrett just secured a $40 million per year deal, Hendrickson's market value had ballooned far beyond what his deal delivered. He wasn't just looking for another payday, he wanted security, consistency, and recognition for being at the top of his game. By early spring, initial trade buzz died down. The Bengals front office publicly committed to working through it, while Hendrickson expressed a wish to stay. It looked from the outside like the wounds were healing and that was the end of it. At least, until the post-draft bombshell hit. Hendrickson goes public and puts the heat on the Bengals suddenly. The carefully repaired narrative shattered. Hendrickson went public with stinging comments. No communication has taken place between my camp and the organization post-draft. The offers prior to the draft did not reflect the vision we shared and were promised last offseason if I continue to play at a high level. Coaches are aware of these past conversations. Rather than using collaboration to get us to a point to bring me home to the team, they are no longer communicating. I have been eagerly awaiting a resolution of this situation. But that's hard to do when there is no discussion and an evident lack of interest in reaching mutual goals. Harsh and calculated, these words weren't just a negotiation tactic. They were a shot fired directly at the heart of the Bengals' leadership. Perhaps most surprising of all, Hendrickson wasn't afraid to tie head coach Zac Taylor into the story, sharing that Taylor texted him about mandatory minicamp penalties. "Fine me if I don't show up," Hendrickson relayed, emphasizing that any disciplinary measures would be met with full public attention. That left fans with no doubt about where Hendrickson wanted to point the blame. A player's perspective. Understanding Hendrickson's position, for some, it's tough to relate to stars frustrated over just $16 million. But in Hendrickson's world, the world of elite edge rushers, where contracts have skyrocketed and the window for earning is short, this is about more than cash. After leading the NFL with 17.5 sacks in 2023, Hendrickson is justified in seeking security and respect. When you compare the numbers, it's clear. His production far exceeds his compensation, especially with expensive deals handed out to stars like Jamar Chase, $40.2 million a year, and T. Higgins, $28.7 million a year. The Bengals, meanwhile, appear caught in a numbers crunch, having spent big on receivers and perhaps, inadvertently, boxed themselves out of meeting Hendrickson's price. The message, whether intentional or not, was clear. Receivers first, defense maybe later. 4. The player? It's a combination of promises unfulfilled, frustration over being sidelined in negotiations, and a determination not to play another snap under the current deal. No new contract, no games, Hendrickson said, putting maximum pressure on the franchise. The ripple effect. What this means for Cincinnati, make no mistake, this is more than a locker room spat. The Bengals' entire defensive outlook changes if Hendrickson doesn't take the field. Their 2023 pass rush, already inconsistent, would be decimated. To make matters worse, the team's prized first-round pick hasn't reported to mandatory minicamp either, stuck in his own contract dispute. For a contender eyeing another playoff run, the timing could hardly be worse. If Hendrickson holds out as threatened, the Bengals' plans and hopes are in disarray. The pressure is mounting, both internally and from fans, as memories of promises hang heavy over the organization. The Falcons angle. Should Atlanta make a move? This is where things get interesting for Atlanta fans. With the edge market in upheaval, could the Falcons, long plagued by an anemic pass rush, swoop in and make a move for the league's top sack artist? Let's be honest, since GM Terry Fontenot took over in 2021, no team has fewer sacks than Atlanta. The Falcons have worked to address that, adding Leonard Floyd and Morgan Fox in free agency, then making a massive draft splash by selecting both Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. in the first round. Add in the return of Braylon Trice, and on paper, Atlanta finally has depth and talent on the edge. Yet as any Falcons follower knows, the proof is always in the production. The ghosts of past failures loom. Atlanta's new pass rush dream team may inspire hope, but faith remains hard-won. Would a proven commodity like Hendrickson, fresh off back-to-back sack-filled seasons, be the missing ingredient? Picture this, Atlanta's potential defensive line. Imagine, just for a moment, what Hendrickson would do for Atlanta's defensive front. Hendrickson lining up at defensive end, Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. coming off the edge, Caden Ellis blitzing up the middle, Leonard Floyd rotating in alongside secondary stars like A.J. Terrell and Jesse Bates. Suddenly, you're not talking about a bottom 5 unit. You're talking about a defense with teeth, a group capable of leaping from mediocrity to the NFL's top 12 or even higher. Still, the reality is complex. Roster competition is fierce, draft picks have already been spent aggressively, and questions linger about the development curve for rookies like Pierce and Walker. Would Fontenot risk more draft capital to chase a sure thing? If he believes his job and Atlanta's playoff hopes are on the line, it's not out of the question. The GM's dilemma? F them picks? Terry Fontenot has already proven he's not afraid to lay it all on the line, having shipped out future picks to secure his draft targets this year. If he views 2025 as do or die and sees Hendrickson as the edge that could tip the balance, the temptation may be irresistible. After all, wouldn't you rather gamble on a 3-time Pro Bowler with proven production than hope everything clicks for a group of untested players? It's a risky move, one that could cost future draft capital and add pressure to a front office already on the hot seat. But as any Atlanta fan will tell you, a true difference maker on the pass rush is a dream that has remained just out of reach for too long. Could Fontenot be bold enough to make it a reality? What happens next? With mandatory camp approaching, Hendrickson's next move could set the tone for the entire NFL offseason. If the Bengals keep stonewalling him, and if the Falcons feel their current mix still isn't enough, don't be surprised if Atlanta emerges as a suitor. The stakes? A defense transformed overnight versus the lingering risk of one more season lost in the trenches. As drama brews in Cincinnati, eyes across the league, and especially in Atlanta, are watching closely. Could this be the blockbuster mid-off-season move that shapes the NFC South race for years to come? That's our deep dive on the Trey Hendrickson rumors, the Bengals' internal turmoil, and what it all means for the Falcons. Now, I want to hear your take. Would you roll the dice on Hendrickson, or do Atlanta's off-season investments already have you feeling confident at edge? What should the front office do if the opportunity arises? Hit us up in the comments, drop your thoughts, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, give us a like to help keep the channel thriving. Hit that like, share your opinions, and stay tuned for more inside scoops, passionate analysis, and all the breaking news that matters to Atlanta. Sports fans, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with even more stories from the sidelines.